Hi, my name is Andrew. Today we're going to make a DIY beverage dispenser. Made a couple of these in the past. In fact, I posted them on some woodworking sites and groups on Facebook, and people really wanted to know how it was made. They wanted plans and instructional video, so this is my attempt. Never made a YouTube video like this before. In fact, this is the first one on this channel. So if you like what you see, let me know in the comments, and we'll get started diving in. This is the first, not the first one I made, it's the most recent one I made, and I finally think I got everything down to what needs to be done correctly. Works flawlessly, and it's cherry wood, walnut base, a walnut lid that you can't see. It has a bottle going into the plumbing. You're gonna need this exact name brand bottle. If you can't figure that out, I'll drop that name down in the comments too. You could either buy one empty if you're not a drinker and you want to gift this to somebody. It's all over Etsy, Craigslist, eBay. You could buy these empty a lot cheaper than new. Now, I will start off with saying I've made a lot of mistakes. The greatest way to learn is through mistakes. This one, for example, was a really nice piece. It was one of the ones I posted, but I messed up the plumbing. So after posting, I did have to take it down, remove the base essentially, remove the plumbing, and add on some epoxy on the outside to fix it. This is in fact what is now fixed. It doesn't have to be pretty because it's all going to be encapsulated in here. So we learn from our mistakes. We'll dive into the issue when we get into the plumbing. Now, the most important detail of this build is going to be the material you use for the plumbing. So I have galvanized steel here, and I have 304 stainless steel. One, you can see they're different sizes, different thicknesses. It'll obviously mess up with measurements. We're going to be using Forstner bits and sizes. And for this specific build, you're going to need these materials, okay? Now, what's wrong with galvanized steel and copper and brass and all the other types of pipes you can buy at the big box store or wherever is they're extremely corrosive. You do not want to put anything ethanol related or even just water inside of a corrosive pipe that you're going to be drinking from, okay? I know we grew up drinking out of hoses and whatnot. This is 2021, almost 2022, and we need to be better. Don't be gifting this without using stainless steel because one, it'll change the color of your drinks. Two, it'll be poisonous. There's lead in there. So many different types of chemicals and harmful metals that will end up in yours or your friends or your loved ones' drinks. So stainless steel. Great thing is, I found each and every one of these pieces out of 304 stainless steel. I created links for them and put them down in the description. Second, type of wood we're going to be using today for this build is Catalox for the base. Catalox is a Mexican royal rosewood. It's a substitute for rosewood or ebony. Has a really nice deep plum color whenever it's finished, almost black, but really hard, really solid, really heavy stuff, and be good for a base. And I got this little piece of walnut. We're gonna cut out a piece. I see some figure down here. Maybe I'll try to cut that out for the lid and get that down to about a 1/4 inch. It's gonna fit in the box for rabbits. Got this little slab of walnut here. We're gonna mill it down to about 5/8 inch thick, and there should be enough space here for all 4 sides. Now that we got that out of the way, let's dive into the plumbing and see what we can do. So this is everything you're gonna need for the plumbing assembly. Basically, you have a 1 3/4 inch reducer, 2 of these 2 inch by 3/4 inch pipes, a 3/4 inch T, this really nice stainless steel 3/4 inch coupling, 6 inch by 3/4 inch straight pipe. You have this non-stainless steel flange, and it's important you get this one specifically because if you go to the big box store, you see the difference in size there. And remember, the base of your box has to fit around the flange. It won't fit around this flange and the standard size that you're going to find in a big box store. Okay, and then you have your stainless steel spigot. This is the cheapest one I could find. I'm not affiliated with them, but I'll still leave that link in the description. They ship really fast, and it's a kind of cool looking bow tie top. Spigot works pretty nice. once you break it loose there. It's pretty cool looking. Okay, so like we said before, you want all stainless steel, and you want these pieces specifically. Reason being, it's like I showed you with the flange, the different size there. You can also look at this coupling. This is galvanized steel coupling versus this stainless steel one. See the difference in diameter. This stainless steel is going to have a pretty tight fit with the Forstner bit we're going to be using, so this will throw your design all off. Use this coupling and do yourself a favor. We also have the bottle to our lid. I drilled a hole, doesn't matter what size hole, 5/16 is what worked for me. We're gonna fit this in the reducer. And then I have 2 corks. You only really need 1, but I will include a link for a bag of all assorted sizes corks when we get to that portion with the bottle, because you're gonna need a smaller size cork to plug a hole in the bottle. So the JB Weld epoxy. Basically, you can see that there's a mixture of the compound in there. What you wanna do, and I recommend getting your fingers wet first. If you get your fingers wet first, whether you're wearing gloves or not, I found gloves actually make this a lot harder to use, but this can set in water, so the water's not gonna affect the epoxy. In fact, I did a really ugly but solid job on this one. I know it's not supposed to be pretty, it's supposed to be watertight because it's gonna be concealed. This stuff does not leak, okay? So along with your Teflon tape here, this epoxy putty is gonna keep it watertight. So you're going to basically just take off a little bit, take the plastic around the edge, take off about fingertips worth there, knead it around for about 30 seconds, let it get sticky through the water, get stickier through the water. Then you're gonna roll it up in your hands like a little worm and just wrap it around the base and then literally just spread it, okay? It is just like putting Play-Doh or something around a joint. It's just important that you make sure you press it all the way around, get everything covered, okay? This doesn't have to be pretty, this is going to be concealed, okay? So that's your final step, but I will let you in on a little step with here. So Teflon tape, you don't gotta get this exact brand, it's all pretty much the same. Just look up plumber's Teflon tape. I like to get myself a decent clean edge there. If it's facing you, you wanna go clockwise, starting at the top of the thread here, and you wanna go around about 1.5 to 2 times, depending on how many threads you have, okay? So it's real simple. Generally a little bit easier than this when I get to focus on it. Yeah, right about there, just about 1.5 times. And then you see I left a little bit of a nipple just to make it easier to go in. If you put too much on, it's gonna bunch up and you're gonna have an issue with it not actually creating a good seal. So you're gonna wanna do that to each one of both sides of this stainless steel 2" by 3/4 inch on both of these. All these need to be threaded. Only one side of this needs to be threaded. The other side of this is going to go into the flange, so you don't need to thread that. And obviously the spigot will need to be threaded, okay? You do not want to put the spigot and this coupling onto the entire assembly until after the box is on. It's a final piece. Your assembly should look like this and stop here. Next piece is, really the final piece of the plumbing, is this lid right here, okay? This is the lid that came with that bottle. So what I like to do is put the lid in here, kind of like this. You set it, if you'd like, see, even if I just set it without anything, it screws in, it starts to create the threads along the outside. I like to put silicone, epoxy, or even CA glue. I use CA glue and it works really well. Once it goes in there, it ain't coming out. Put that in just like that. And then what I like to do is just screw the bottle in. And then once the bottle is fully screwed in, you can twist from here and you see that that cap is starting to turn. I don't want to turn it all the way down yet. I'm just showing you how to do it. But you could turn that until it goes all the way down, and then it's going to be stuck in there. That's pretty much it for the plumbing. Non-painless, non-dusty flattening process. If you have a good jointer and a good planer, I recommend it. Recommend using that over router sled. I just love that bit. I love that sled, and there's something really nice and calming about destroying wood with a router bit. Anyways, I lied about the thickness of the lid. We're going to make it a 1/2 inch. Also, we're going to cut it to fit. Next, catalogs flatten really easily. Really dense woods, they don't warp too much, so you want to keep that base anywhere from 3/4 of an inch to an inch thick. I guess the thicker the better. It's not too important because it's really just a rectangular piece of wood that all this is going to sit on. Next, this gorgeous piece of walnut came through pretty nice. Should be able to have the 4 pieces taken out of here the way I want it. Got it milled down to about 5/8 of an inch thick, and yeah, it's looking pretty flat. Basically, we're going to have about 5 inch by 13 inch. Don't cut down to final size yet. You're going to cut down to final size right before assembly because we're going to add a groove for the lid to sit in. If you're working with slabs instead of S4S lumber or whatever, I have this melamine here. I use melamine for everything. I have cutoffs of it everywhere. I'm just going to take this slab, double-sided tape all over underneath, get a nice good fit, and get myself a good jointed line along the edge. So I spent some time finagling with these boards, whatever word that is. And you can see here, I kind of got a good grain matchup. The only thing that's not going to match up is this and this. That dark colored wood with that sap wood. But maybe this sap wood will kind of wrap into there when we make this an entire box. What's important to focus on is kind of trying to make everything match up to make it look like one hollowed out piece of wood. Now you're not going to get that with this much figure, but you can kind of see, put this all together, it matches up pretty nice. It wouldn't be the same if we took, you know, this right here, flip it over, and now you got this sapwood contrasting that. Doesn't make so much sense. So the next order of business is on the flip side of things, we're gonna cut a groove at what we're gonna consider the top of the box. So it's gonna be about a 1/2 inch groove at the top here, all the same distance, and that's what the lid's gonna fit in. Now with what you see here, it's, you know, it's not all the way in, it's kind of tight. We want it to be about right there. Reason being is that we're gonna sand the mill marks off of this once we cut it to size, and that's gonna take just about enough off to get it down there. So if you want a nice tight fit, then this is the way to go. Get it to about right there, finagle it. I've heard everyone talk about, you know, taking off just a little bit at a time until you get a right fit. So that's what you want to do here. Take off a little bit at a time until you get a right fit. So now we're going to talk about sanding and finish. Okay, this is something that's kind of bugged me for a while because I don't have the most expensive, luxurious sander. It's a little cheap sander, but when I upgraded to this sandpaper, the 3M Extract Cubitron, they are not sponsoring anything. They are not affiliated, nothing. I just love them. Bought them with my own money. They're fantastic. The removability, the pattern, it's a game changer. I definitely recommend checking it out. We're going to take care of sanding everything else as far as the insides of the box. The next thing to talk about is finishes. There are plenty of videos out there talking about Rubio Monocoat, polyurethane. Okay, these two, after numerous tests that I have seen online, are the best for waterproofing and ethanol proofing. So if you're going to be using liquor in these. Alright, so what I have here is the bottle, a glass drill bit. It's by Bosch. Again, not affiliated, not sponsored or anything, just like it. This is the 5/16, and I'm going to attempt to move up to a 1/2 inch for the cork to make it easier to funnel in. The reason you want to put the hole on the bottom of the bottle like this is for two reasons. One, you create a really good vacuum, or take away a really good vacuum. Whenever you pull that out, it makes it easy to get rid of that chug whenever pouring, so you have a nice smooth pour. Second, you remove the cork, you can put in a funnel and you could pour in your beverage without having to take the bottle out, turn the box upside down after filling it, and put it back in. So it's more of a tactical kind of placement. Makes a lot more sense, and I'll show you in the end what it really is going to look like. You don't need a drill press for this. You can submerge this in a bucket of water and use a hand drill. So I messed up, as you see here. I'm going to fix it with CA glue or epoxy. Just make sure you go slow. It does work. You just have to take your time. I've done this a bunch of times, but for the purpose of this video, I got to keep pressing and make it work. Steps. Finally, this wood turned out gorgeous with the finish, and it's really just the final assembly here. What's important is that you had cranked all these down, got everything watertight. I even decided to put an extra cork on the bottom here, and then I covered that with the black silicone. You can also use CA glue, doesn't matter. It's just that extra insurance to make sure if this cork fails at any point in time, you have this entirely sealed off and you're good to go. It's not going to end up on the wood. So we want to find a placement, and we have 3 wood screws to lock this down after we find the placement. This is the reason you didn't put the coupling or the spigot on yet, right? Take your box, sit it down, find a nice good spot. Be careful not to mar your finish. But you see how that comes right through the hole right there. I like to pull it back a little bit. Make sure it's nice and centered. Now, if you want, tape is a good option. You can put tape on the edges here to mark where your box is to know when you put it back that it's square. It's pretty simple. I've seen people not even attach these boxes to the top. They just let it sit because it doesn't get moved around a lot, and that makes it easier to get access to the plumbing if you need to, but if your stuff's watertight, shouldn't need to. Next is, I stick my finger through here, I grab the top of that, I kind of just push it back to where that is centered through the top hole that we drilled out with that 2-inch hole saw. Once that's centered, I'm happy with my placement. Everything looks fine, it looks centered coming through the hole right here. I'm going to carefully take the box off. That's exactly where I want it. White chalk, permanent marker, anything like that. Go ahead and mark through the holes on your flange where your screw is going to be. With that, take a drill bit corresponding to your screw size. I'm using just 1-inch wood pocket screws here with a little washer just for that extra pull down force. Once you have that screwed on, like I said, you could either attach the box or not. But what I'm going to do is use CA glue, and I'm going to attach it to the base. Once the CA glue dries, I'm going to come up underneath and hit it with some screws for that extra security. So if you do want to turn it upside down or whatnot, it's going to work just fine. Then after all that's said and done, what I did here, I attached my spigot to the coupling, and I put a little bit of silicone. The great thing about silicone is you could wipe it off and try to make it as clean as possible. There's black, there's clear, there's white. I went with black. Can't even really see it from that far away. It's not a big deal. Right there, it'll just screw right onto that. And once you get it there, you really need to crank that down. Get out your grandpa's vice grips. I mean, crank it. Crank it till you can't crank anymore, and then crank some more. Make sure you fill the threads with some sort of silicone, epoxy, or a lot of CA glue. Just don't go all the way in so it stays in the threads and doesn't come out to where liquid will be exposed to it. That'll just give that extra security on top of the tape that you have around that to work out. Finally, we got the kind of finishing touches. I ordered a bunch of these cork kind of coasters. I think I'm just gonna glue it right there. You place your glass on there. It just adds that little extra effect, gives the glass a little bit of a rise so it's closer to the spigot, helps with spills and everything. It's a little bit more of a personal touch. And how I messed up the bottle last time, after doing some research, this glass is a little bit thinner than the side here. So with this one, unfortunately, we're gonna screw it in after we fill it up, but we're gonna have to hold the box upside down and screw it in that way. So if you take your time and really practice, you can get a center cut, and then that way you can just pour it in through the top through a funnel. Is going to be golden. But what I have here is this tiny little cork. These tiny little corks came in the same package as these 3/4 corks that we used in the piping. Bunch of different sizes. So if you decide to change your drill bit size, your hole sizes, this box, I mean, all different cork sizes, and it's probably the coolest purchase I made for finishing these up. So I'm gonna go ahead and assemble this off camera so I don't look like an idiot, and then we're gonna get some final touch photographs, video, whatever. And if you like this project, let me know in the comments. If you hate this project, let me know in the comments. If there's anything you have questions about, let me know in the comments. And anything else, if I didn't provide a link for it and you have a question about it and you want to know where to find it, I'll get you a link. I will do my best to respond to everyone. Thanks for watching, and happy building.